Hi, welcome to the Nail Lady Show. I'm Gina, and I own a bunch of really cool hardware stores, and I'm here today with my friend
Andrea. I own a bunch of nail salons.
Awesome.
Which is why we call ourselves the Nail Ladies.
The Nail Ladies. We're so cheesy.
We are the most cheesy, and I love it.
What's today's show about?
Today's show is about the importance of Main Street. It's kind of Main Street versus everyone else.
Everyone else.
Because I think that when people talk about opening a business nowadays with, especially AI coming into the mainstream, people oftentimes are looking to, sell something online, build something that is very tech heavy. And our businesses are not very tech heavy at all, although they do use quite a bit of tech. So
we do.
Why don't we start with you, Gina, and why don't you tell us about the importance of Main Street and why you decided to open up a business that is so Main Street centric?
Yeah, I love how tangible hardware stores are. I mean, we're not sexy, that's for sure.
I think that's up for debate.
You at least are in a business that has some fashion forward intrigue. I mean, the closest
look at her.
The closest we get is we actually do sell a couple $1 million of flower pots every year, and so those are very trendy, seasonally colorful, based on themes, and so that's where it comes in for us. However, I digress. I wanted to open a hardware store because, one, I was coming from the tech world. I had continued to get laid off from tech jobs, the boom and bust of the mid to late 90s. It was not a stable industry at the time. I told some college students recently, if you want to test your resilience, get a job in the most volatile industry that you can. And that's exactly what I was doing. And I lived in a neighborhood that really needed a hardware store, which is a really good reason to start a business. If you can find a need, especially if it's a desperate need for a community, for me, I was all in. And so I opened my first location, and 2 years later opened the second, and then was off and running because people all over Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas really wanted a local hardware store. And so we were filling that need.
And tell me a little bit about why it's important for people to fill a need for Main Street when so many retailers are moving online, when COVID really pushed people to do the sort of pickup or delivery or the Instacarts or the personal shoppers that bring things to you. Why is it still important to have a place where people can go?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons. From a community standpoint, if you walk down a Main Street that has been decimated by whatever, it's not a safe, friendly, well-lit place. And so from a safety standpoint, we don't want dark storefronts in any of our communities or towns or cities across the country. It's just, that's at its very basic. Yeah. The other thing really is job creation. Members of the community meeting each other. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends meet each other in the aisles of our hardware store. And it's like, seeing your best bud in the tool aisle. Having places for community to gather. You create spaces where people can have parties and celebrate things like weddings and all sorts of things, right? I mean, you can't do that in an online environment. COVID definitely taught us that. We can do a lot of things virtually now, but you cannot celebrate each other, I don't think, online
in the way that you can.
Correct.
The way that you can. And I tend to agree. I think that not only does it create there's this concept of placemaking, right? Where people come and make places, and businesses do that, and residents do that, and government does that, and civil society does that, where you sort of shape a neighborhood or you shape a city.
Yes.
And that is part of what we do. I think that business is more than just a place to exchange, goods and services for a fee. I think it's actually a third space that people talk about. That's not your home. It's not your work. It's a place to go to have a moment of enjoyment, even if you aren't consuming, even if you're just there to walk around and explore, to learn something. I do think that there's value in that. And I take great pride in having created a business that people come to and have a moment of sort of zen in what is an otherwise pretty busy life. I think any city in this country is filled with people who are busy, overworked, just overextended. And a moment to just come and decompress and be in zen is something that you kind of can't do exclusively online. I mean, people, scroll on their Instagram and
Yeah.
but then they call that doom scrolling, right? In
Right.
the end, there's something to be said for going somewhere and having a moment, an experience that just kind of colors your life in a way that online cannot.
One thing that I remember, probably, I don't know, we could fact check the time, but years ago, Warby Parker, which is the eyeglass.
Yeah.
These are not from Warby Parker, but they decided they had built this amazing online brand. I mean, they
Yeah.
took the world by storm.
Yeah.
It was e-commerce at its finest, very few SKUs, shipping to you with free delivery, returns with free delivery.
Multiple options
Oh my
that they would
gosh.
send you.
They were brilliant, but they realized they were never going to grow anymore online unless they were in neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And when they started opening their brick and mortar stores, I felt so maybe vindicated, like, oh my God, like people are going to start coming back to local shops. And I have seen that. We've all seen that
Yeah.
happen over and over again
Yeah.
now with brands that build this fantastic online presence, but they realize they need to be in front in the communities of their consumers to grow.
And it's more than the speed, right? Because you want something now and you don't want to wait even for, a 2-day shipping situation. People want to have a tactile experience. They
Yes.
want to touch things. They want to smell things. They want to interact with another human being. They want
Yes.
to, which is why a lot of these ghost kitchens didn't really work, where people go in and just press on a screen,
Yeah.
what the food that they want and it just appears. People really enjoy human interaction, which
Yeah.
I think, yay, humanity.
I know.
Yay, we're not
Thank
doomed
you.
after all. So tell me about you and your decision to both involve online in a complement of the in-store shopping experience and what that's given to your clients.
Yeah, so we've been selling online for, I don't know, 20 years at this point, but it trickled in the very beginning. And then COVID hit and it really became a thing because of the buy online pickup at the curb, essentially. We had lots of people we don't have parking in many of our locations, and people would say, I'm not sure what curbside means. I'm like, it's literally the curb, the street curb, to come get your stuff. So that it really exploded then. And what we realized is that if we could get this customer to buy something online and pick it up in the store, then we could get that human interaction. Hopefully they would buy something else. They would ask us questions about what they purchased. We would have a chance to get them into our loyalty program, all sorts of human touch that we couldn't have gotten if they just purchased online. And so that made a big difference. We also realized that we're at 13 stores now, and our e-commerce sales are about the equivalent of a small retail store for us. And so without having the cost of opening a 14th store, we have built that 14th store digitally. So I think, at some point we'll have an episode where we talk about expansion, and you can buy, build, or grow within the space that you're in. This was a way for us to digitally grow in our space.
Yeah, and I do think that it gives your customer another option.
Yes.
And I think ultimately both of us are in the business of making things easy for customers
Yes.
and giving them what they need when they need it, in a way that still feels sort of organic to our own sort of company and corporate values. I do want to talk about tech, though, because in this age where people think that tech is really the only way to grow and the only way to, like, I'm going to open up a TikTok shop, or I'm going to open up an Instagram, I'm going to sell it on Instagram. Everything has become so virtual in such a massive way. There's still room for tech in Main Street. There's still room
Yes.
for running a business with tech. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you have incorporated tech in your businesses and where you find the importance of it.
Well, I think we follow trends. So, for example, we take Apple Pay because that became a trend, right? Customers started coming in and saying,
Just
do you
their
take
phone.
Apple Pay
Yep.
and make it easy for us? And we want to make things easy. And so we eventually started taking things like Apple Pay. There was a national trend, I think, led by probably the big retailers to eliminate the cards that people had for loyalty programs. Do you remember when we used to have keychains
Yeah,
with all
keychains
those
with
plastic? Well, then, some of us got cars without keychains, and what do you do with the cards? And so that became a digital process, which made life a lot easier for us because we didn't have to buy the plastic cards to give to the customer. We could do an automatic lookup in one store, even if you had moved to another jurisdiction. And so that exchange of information between the locations and that seems like a pretty basic tech program, but it made a huge difference in our business. And so things like that really expanded how we were working, made our customer service better without feeling like, oh my gosh, we're investing millions of dollars in technology.
Yeah, it's funny because even for us, we have, we're a nail salon. So I think one of the bigger challenges that we have is people leaving, and if they don't have a gel polish that's fully cured and dry, they don't want to be like going into their wallets and touching things. And,
Right.
and we have sort of contactless
It's fantastic.
checkout where people just, they stroll out at a like 20% tip and then they leave. And,
Yeah.
and we can check them out sort of without them having to go into a wallet. And they can also make appointments using tech, which for us has been a game changer. A lot of people, it's funny for desiring human interaction, there are certain things that people I find don't love to do. People don't love to talk on the phone to a business. They want to text us. They want to book online. They don't want to have, that's not the touch point that I think makes a difference for them. So we do give people the opportunity to call us and make an appointment, but we also give them the option to book online at 3 a.m.
Well, I've done that. Or if I'm in a different time zone and I want to go to the nail salon tomorrow. I can do it wherever I am, whether you're open or not.
Exactly.
So convenient.
And it makes it easy for I think our clients to be able to access us when we're not even open, like you said. But then also come in for the real thing that matters, kind of like what you were saying about curbside, right?
Yeah.
It gives them the chance to do this techie thing, and then it also gives them a chance to come in and have the human exchange where it really matters. But I do think that there is, it's impossible to sort of put the toothpaste back in the tube or unscramble the egg, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to tech. I think all of our businesses rely on tech. Tell me about one of the spots where you guys use tech at your hardware stores.
Well, I was going to say, so I think there's two big reasons for any business, anyone who's listening, two big reasons to evaluate using some sort of technology. Will it make your customer service better, easier for your team, better and easier for your customer, more streamlined? So that's one. The second is, will it make you more money or will it save you money? So, and I use that one very strongly because we realized a couple years ago, we have 25,000 items in our store, which is a lot. People see our fairly tiny storefronts, but we are small but mighty.
Small and mighty.
Yes, small but mighty. Oof. So keeping up with price changes and inventory and cost of goods with 25,000 items for a small business like mine can be very, very onerous. And so we realized that one of the serious places we needed to invest in technology is inventory management and pricing management, margin management, if you will. And so there are some software packages that overlay our inventory process that allow us to see when our prices should go up, when our prices should go down, when our cost of goods have changed. And that allows us to be more competitive because the big competitors that we have really key insight into what their costs are.
Yeah.
And I mean,
who's buying what?
What? I mean, there's a legendary story of if there's a storm coming, Walmart knows to raise the prices of their Pop-Tarts. I mean, and that it's yes. And that, I mean, that's from years ago. But the point is I don't have or didn't have as a small business any data like that, any insight. And now there are affordable technologies for businesses like mine to make sure we're taking care of that stuff. So one of the questions we get asked a lot, I think, by friends getting ready to open their own business is, what kind of investment do they make in technology from the beginning? And so I'm curious how you would answer that.
I think what you just said is really important. I think tech has to be, it has to create your product or your service better, and it has to make you more effective and efficient in how you run your business and increase your margins, but not one at the expense of the other. I mean,
Right.
It's lovely to that's why, again, back to the ghost kitchens, sure, that's very inexpensive to do, but people want the face-to-face interaction. So I think that the first thing that is right out the gate is to really understand who your customer is and how you can benefit your customer from making changes that will create tech opportunities for you. And there are a ton of things out there. I mean, people will, especially now with AI, people will sell you anything to sort of operationalize your business, make it more efficient, make it better. But it's not always.
No. There's so much stuff that you don't need when you get started that some service provider will find you about. HR systems, payroll systems, inventory systems, POS systems, all of those things can cost so much money. And the challenge is figuring out where to invest when you first get started. And sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you wait and see and you measure what your customers are asking for. Sometimes you think about what free options do you have. One of the benefits that you and I didn't have when we started was the sales opportunities through social media, the free marketing opportunities through social media, the fact that influencers exist now that for little or no money in some cases, you can get your brand out there without spending a dime on marketing companies or PR companies
Yeah.
trying to come sell you something. Not that you don't want to get to the point where you need, eventually you're going to need those folks if you're
Yeah.
successful
Yeah.
enough and you're scaling, and we can get to that later. But what do you need to do when you get started? And a big part of it is get your product out there. And how do you do that? And are there ways for you to do that free now on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube? You name it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of democratized. I mean, I think tech and the sort of the tech space has in some ways democratized the way that we reach people, right? That you can basically go and do an Instagram live from your aisles and talk to people about one of your 25,000 items that you sell and reach a certain audience, right?
Yes.
Whether that's going to become a viral moment or not is up for debate. But I do think that people can take advantage of a lot of the free resources that are out there, but really think about what's the best way to reach your customer, connect with your customer, inform customers about what it is that you are selling, but beyond the actual product, the experience, right? And I do think that there's space to move your voice of your company, the values of your company into an online tech space. But then to your point about the tools, I mean, really think about what's essential that's going to make you where you're spending the most amount of time. Is it
Yes.
payroll? Is it inventory?
Yes.
Is it tracking your analytics for social media? Where are you going to get the most bang for your buck to invest in a product that's going to be able then to give you something good out of it? Because you can out-tech your entire operation, and that might not necessarily
Not
bring you the
make any
return.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make a difference for you.
So I'm a member of the Ace Hardware Cooperative, and so I like to talk about co-ops, which is a little bit of an aside. But I will say that oftentimes when businesses are starting out, they have the opportunity to either become part of a cooperative, buy from a cooperative, or maybe join some sort of an association. And I bring those up to say there are, in a lot of cases, shared technology resources when you're part of a group like that. So you're not making the big investment on your own. You're sharing with somebody else. So I think that's really important to explore and think about. And then the second thing is there are a lot of opportunities to outsource parts of your business now that I also didn't understand when I first got started. And that's not quite, maybe that's a little bit outside of the technology realm, but we outsource a bunch of our finance department.
100%.
They're obviously using very sophisticated technology
Yes.
to run the finances
Yes.
of my business. I'm not paying to have a standalone
Internal finance.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
agree.
And so I think there are inflection points throughout scaling where we hired business coaches or outside consultants that came at very key moments that allowed us to explore things like outsourcing or joining associations, because those were things that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, and I will say this: we've used fractional CFOs, fractional HR, fractional COOs. It's a wonderful resource,
Yes.
especially if it's project based and you want somebody to come in and kind of take a look at something and really help you flesh out the strategy behind a change. And I definitely think that's a great point. I also want to say, to the point that you made about associations and peers, and you would be surprised that your competitors can actually be a great resource. It's funny. There's a myth in business that it's like dog eat dog and everybody's out to get everybody else.
No.
We can do a whole episode on competitors.
Mm.
If you reach across the aisle, to use a very DC term, there really is an opportunity for you to connect with like-minded business owners, some of them that are your direct competitors,
Yes.
and join in on something that's going to make both of you better.
Yes.
And stronger competitors. We
Yes.
actually should do a whole chat about competitors.
We
because I
probably
think-
should.
I think that that's an important, there's a lot of misconceptions about competition that I think we can debunk, especially, frankly, as women. This is a tangent, that it's like everybody's out to get everybody and everybody's
That is not
catty.
true.
And it's not true at all.
It's
The
not
business
true.
environment, the water's warm.
Yes.
The water's warm.
There is opportunity for everybody.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's room for everybody
Yes.
too. And I
Yeah.
think that's the best part of, I mean, if we're going to go into straight capitalism and then competition, that frankly, that is. I mean, there is a
Yeah.
great opportunity for people to help each other out versus try to take each other down, even as they're competing.
Can I just go back to this we started out talking about why Main Street matters, and let's go back to almost no tech. Like, why do you think Main Street is important to your business, to the framework of cities?
I think people are not looking in life to go and just purchase something and have it. I think people are looking for, increasingly they're looking for experiences, which is why a restaurant can't just have good food. It's got to have good food, good service, good ambiance. It's why a hardware store can't just be a place where you go and you can buy one of the 25,000 items. the people there have to be friendly and warm and maybe greet you by name,
Right.
right? And it's why a place like the nail salon has worked, because it is kind of a third place that people come to after work, and they get to just unwind with somebody that knows them, that knows the beverage they like to drink, that's going to maybe give them a birthday card because they know that their birthday is tomorrow. So I think Main Street, the role of Main Street still in our communities, is to create opportunities for just living a life that's a lot more colorful than just behind a screen, at home, alone, or with every family member on their own device. It just gives us opportunity to connect. And I think increasingly, as we become a more digitally informed society, people are seeking for ways to connect, which is a weird dichotomy, right? Because we're so connected, yet we're still so hungry for that connection. So that's what I would say. What about you?
Well, I mean, I'm a fierce advocate of retail as a seller of lots of stuff, and I like to shop, and I like to shop tangibly, exactly the way that you're talking about. And so I think people, it's a slippery slope. If we buy everything online, stores won't carry it, and then you can't find it anywhere but online. And I want to walk down,
any street
anywhere,
USA,
any street USA, and when I travel, I seek out the local businesses. I'm not going to Ann Arbor, Michigan to sit in a hotel room and buy things online. I'm going there so that I can see, what's to offer in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I have several stores that I like, which is why it came up. But
it's also because you don't want to just go in Ann Arbor and see what they're selling. You want to chat with a person in Ann Arbor and see what's going on and see what they think of the weather.
Yes. So I was in Ireland recently, and before I travel anywhere, I look to see if there's some stores that I want to shop in. And I went to 3 that I found online that had a great digital presence, but I went to all 3 stores. I met all 3 owners. I met women working in those shops with all 3 owners, got to experience brands that I had never experienced before, felt the passion, got advice on where to tour in the city because of actually talking to someone who lives there. I mean, the whole experience when I do that just enhances the trip. And I want people coming to Washington, D.C. to have that experience too.
Yeah, I think ultimately is why we always say that we're more than a nail salon.
Yeah.
And I think you're more than a hardware store. I think that is because we're kind of helping shape, I mean, not to sound so self-involved. We're shaping the cities. But actually, along with every other business, we are ultimately shaping the experience that people have when they walk down a street anywhere.
That is the character. We're also kind of out of time, and that was a really cool wrap-up. But did you have any big takeaway? Like, nail this close for us.
I'm going to nail the close with what you just said about how you like to shop when you go to a different city, whether it's Ann Arbor or Dublin. There's something about the in-store local experience of making connections with people that you would otherwise not get a chance to meet if you were just sitting in a hotel room scrolling, that really gives you an opportunity to kind of amplify your life in a way that's cool. So I'm going to use that as a takeaway in my next trip.
Let's go shopping.
Let's. How about you? How do you nail this close?
Well, I mean, Main Street means everything to me. So just the fact that you really discussed the connection of being local, getting people in, having the experience, being more than just the thing that we are. We're community connectors and meeting places, and so that to me is the most important part.
Well, I loved this discussion, friend. Thank you for listening in and tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, things you'd like us to discuss in our next episode, drop them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them.
See you soon.